I just quickly want to summarize what we have been working on this term and what is expected of you. We were doing still life exercise, but we decided to change the syllabus and do an exercise that exposes all of us to looking at objects from many different angles. And with that in mind, we came up with the still life design exercise, which covers all aspects of the IGCSE syllabus: observation, interpretive study and design. Design work means that you need to be able to draw straight lines. You need to be able to draw perfect circles. If you can't do that by freehand, you must get your ruler, your compass, or draw around shapes to help you get it correct. The quality of your line is very important. So I asked you to draw a line across the horizon and to create a vanishing point. I asked you to draw a number of simple geometric shapes: triangle, square, rectangle, circle. Then I asked you to draw a number of other popular shapes and signs, like the music sign, like the star, like the cross, the equal sign. I said, why don't you introduce your name or your initials and put some numbers in? Then I asked you to turn 2D shapes into 3D forms by using a vanishing point. And then you should be taking some, not all of your shapes to the vanishing point to create form. Now, some of you stopped doing this and your images are out of perspective and some of your lines are not very neat. It is up to you during lockdown to tidy up your designs. After we did this exercise, I showed you the exercise outlines done by last year's Form 5s. This was the outline which I drew myself based on this design exercise. The last year's Form 5 said they enjoyed this exercise the most, so we thought, as the Form 2s and the Form 3s and the Form 1s are progressing quite well, why not give them this challenging exercise rather than doing one still life for the whole term? Why not give students the chance of drawing objects, landscapes, signs and symbols that we see in everyday life from all sorts of different angles? After I showed you this exercise, I then brought in a painting from home, which is the same exercise completed. You'll see I use the eye as my vanishing point. I also use the eye as my direction of light. But for us, we're only going to have one direction of light. Now, after we had drawn our designs, I started giving us exercises on putting in tone. And the first demonstration I did was with the cube box, which I asked everybody to draw above the horizon so we could see underneath the box. You didn't have to do a box as long as it was a shape with 3 sides. So as my light was coming from the right, you will see the side facing the light is the brightest, the side not facing the light is the darkest, and the facing side was the middle tone. So you were asked to do that exercise, and most of you were demonstrating an understanding of that in your designs in class. I asked you to develop your designs by adding more information. The following week, we did another very simple exercise where now the box shape was below the horizon and we could see that light shines on top of the box and at the side facing the direction of light. Only the facing side would have the darkest shading on it. The other two sides would be light. We asked students to continue developing their designs by adding in more images of their choice. But we found many students were reluctant to develop their designs. So in my class, I asked students to put a bubble, a ball, and a balloon into their designs. And I said they all must have the same direction of light. You'll see the two cubes are light's coming from this way, but with the balls, the light is coming from there. In your designs, you must have one direction of light only. It seriously helps students get focused. When you have directions of light from all sorts of different angles, it doesn't work. It doesn't teach students very much. So you must have one disciplined direction of light. Now, when it came to drawing the ball, I asked you to put on geometric shapes. And the shape nearest to us, at the point nearest to us, would be the largest. As the shapes move around the ball, they become narrower. And then I started putting in my shading, and I always state next to a highlight is always a dark tone. Immediately where light stops shining, you see dark tones. Not just in cube objects, but also in round objects. After doing the bubble, ball and balloon, I then demonstrated round objects, which you are also asked to put in your design. I said inside the bowl, at the point where light is shining, would be the darkest tone. As the bowl moves around, it now attracts the direction of light. At the side facing the light is the brightest. Where light stops shining is your darkest tone, not at the back. A lot of students like putting the darkest tone at the back, but if you observe, you will see where light stops shining on cubic objects and on round objects, that's where you're going to find your darkest tones. So I asked you to also practice drawing the handle and show how it joins the cap, because a lot of students like showing the handle at the edge of the cap. They don't like showing where it joins onto the cap. Examiners like to see this type of information, where you show how things are joined together. I further demonstrated to some classes on a traditional pot, and I emphasized that the neck of the pot is facing down. So all of the neck of the pot would have a darker tone. But again, where light is shining from this side, this is where you would get your darkest tone. It stays dark, but it gets a little bit lighter. Again, the bottom of the pot is a little bit like the neck. It starts facing down. At the point where it starts facing down, you get a dark tone all the way across. You get a highlight when the part of the pot faces the direction of light, and you immediately find dark tones next to the highlight where the light no longer shines. So that is as far as we got. This week we were going to do a demonstration of how to do glass objects. I shall do that demonstration tomorrow. But for you, you should be saying to yourself, I've got to add colour. You have got to look at your line. Your line must be neat and tidy. Your objects must follow the laws of perspective. They do not have to go to one vanishing point. They can go to many different vanishing points. The main thing